Hey everybody, we're live on Jet Live with Michael Berl. Thanks for joining us. How are
Thank you
you?
for having us.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I love your background. Those are great
It's my
pictures.
living room, at least part of it. It's the cultural part of the living room.
The culture, that's where the pictures are. So Michael, how are you? How have things been during this period of time? I'll
More or
ask a
less like
general question
everybody
for you.
else. Like I said, I'm of the age that I have to be careful because first of all, I'm not young and gorgeous like you. And second of all, I am a diabetic. So between the fact that I'm what's called a senior citizen, although I refuse to admit that, I have to be careful. And while I have been going back to the university every morning for a couple of hours just to play around, um, I'm like everybody else, besides my real life as the person who runs Heritage, these trips to Poland, well, that pretty much stopped for the imminent future. So, like I said, I have a lot of time on my hands and a lot of time to be a grandfather.
How are your grandkids?
They're great, thank God. One is in the first grade, and one goes back to kindergarten tomorrow.
Oh yeah, they both are back in school.
Yeah, one of them is in the first grade, so she's been gone for a week. The other one is starts tomorrow because kindergartens have been divided into 3-day sequences. So her sequence starts tomorrow.
hmm hmm And um, and what are you doing right now to be creative, to prepare? You usually at this point you've chosen a musical, or you are still in the process of choosing this point of the
Well, let's
year.
just wait. Right now, we're trying to analyze how to deal with Corona in light of the fact that the government was going to allow partial theater with restrictions to go back into business on June the 14th. Later this week, I have a Hillel meeting to discuss how we can recreate our program with restrictions, whatever that's supposed to mean. I
hmm
have three choices on the table. I can tell you now that one of them is My Fair Lady, one of them is Bye Bye Birdie, and one of them is Elton John's Aida. The decision will probably be made more as a budget consideration more than anything else. I have a personal favorite, but I'm not going to tell you that. And on later this week, we're going to make a decision. I love those three shows for lots of different reasons, and that's what we're working on. We have the rights to all three. What we're trying to find out from the rights people, I imagine other people who are doing this in our field as well, is whether or not we can get a contract that says that will give a deposit for rights, but reserve the right to cancel should Corona get in the way. Now, that's an interesting question that hasn't been answered yet. And the answer to that really decided a lot of other factors in which show we're going to do.
hmm And you said you have the rights to all three shows. Is that a usual thing where you you can pick up multiple rights all in the same year and just make sure you have
Well,
them?
they're two different companies, and right now it's early, so they don't care. They'll, in other words, at some point in time, I have to cut because I have to pick a date. Right now, I received an okay for all three. They also wrote, given the fact that there's Corona, we understand that this is not 100% deal, and we wrote in return, you're right, it's not a 100% deal, but we need more information from the rights people. But I don't want to get caught without rights, so we applied.
Yeah, yeah, definitely during this time, it's good to prepare and have everything ready to go when it happens. Um, you you've done two shows in the past, in the past during the years. Now you've pretty much settled on Hanukkah, um, and what just I just want to, before I ask the next question, I just want to thank Aram Banaf. She's watching. You might remember him from I think he was in West Side Story.
Right,
Uh, Josh Becker, Gotti
right.
Zeg, if I got it right, Gotti again. Sorry. Brecha Daniel. Josh says, Michael, what about old Calcutta?
That's a great standing joke that's been going on for years. Tell him I love him for saying that, and it's a great because I have no costume problem.
Good,
You know
good.
what? You know how Old Calcutta works, CB?
I do not. I do
Old
not.
Calcutta was legendary because it was the first nude musical on Broadway. That's why there's not a costume issue.
Ah, so it was before Daniel Radcliffe did Equus.
Yes,
there was
yes,
Old
yes.
Calcutta.
It
Okay.
was a huge problem. It was a good show if you didn't have to look at it.
I've
So I
actually
made
it's
a lot of, in my time, I made a lot of jokes at rehearsals about when we talk about costumes. I said, well, we could do Old Calcutta. We could save a lot of money.
Hair also, right? Has that
Hair also has hair, but
yeah.
hair, like I said, neither, well, Old Calcutta is not that much, that doesn't interest me. Neither is hair, really because of the philosophy of the theater that we're in, which insists on being a community family event. So I guess those two shows don't fit in. It's one of the restrictions we have at Hillel that other theaters don't have, in the sense that I have to kind of live by certain standards that Hillel has demanded, as it being family oriented and large casted and all kinds of things like that.
And you did Aida. I actually wasn't here. I love Aida, by the way. It's one of my favorite musicals. One of the first musicals I started listening to when I started getting more into Broadway. Um, it's so you did it a few years ago, but I actually was on a call with Daniel Lewin. He was in West Side Story, and I believe it was with them. We were talking about Matilda.
Yeah, but I can't get the rights.
You can't get the rights. Okay, well, I threw it out there because
I'll tell you the truth. We can't get the rights to anything that really interests me a lot. I mean, if I had my way to get my hands on Wicked, obviously that would be my absolutely first choice. But I can't even get my rights on Les Mis because of the age issues that are involved. You know about that rule?
yeah, I mean, there was the whole story a bunch of years ago, and I think it was what was it 2011?
It was a bunch of years ago where I did Les Mis, and all of a sudden was called on the fact that the cast was too old to be in the show, and it was the single most problematic evening of my theater life when I had to ask 16 members of the cast. Some of these people you know well, they're personal friends of yours, to leave the cast because they were the wrong age. And then we had 24 hours to put together another cast. And in the end, it was fine, but there were some very miserable moments and as it was unfolded.
Yeah, I actually, by the way, uh, it reminds me, Brian Friedland was still able to be in that show. He's been in your show since I believe he told me 2004. I've been in touch
I
with
think
him.
it's 17 or 18 years, right?
Yeah, I've been in touch with him throughout this time, and he's been writing some really amazing stories.
Brian Freeland
Yeah, so
is a work of art and a work in progress, and he's a magnificent actor. And given his situation medically and otherwise, he is truly a walking miracle on stage.
yeah, I love watching him create and do his art. It's amazing, and I've actually invited him to join Jet Live. Maybe he'll have a chance to at some point. Um, Dina says hi. Shlomit's asking about the Newsies. Were you able to get the rights for Newsies?
I can get that. Hillel's not excited about it. Hillel, like I said, if Hillel had their choice, they would do Fiddler on the Roof every year for the next 30 years. But that's not going to happen.
It has been done.
I
Fiddler on the
know.
Roof.
It's not happening. The Fiddler on the Roof thing turned out to be more of I mean, it was a huge success by accident more than anything else. In my wildest imagination, I didn't see the reaction of the community to be that overwhelming and that exciting. And this whole Joey Silverman reunion thing became an issue. And then Chaim Tupel came to the show, and that became an issue. I didn't see any of that coming, and I can't believe it'll happen again in my lifetime. But it was great, great, great theater.
I mean, you're famous for. I mean, you're famous. You've been around the theater community for so long. It's amazing what you've done. But something that I found that was very special. I was in Cinderella with you, and I did Annie as well.
The Prince.
I was the prince, and Michael Aiden, who was supposed to join us today, but because of technical issues did not, was my prince in that production.
Right.
He actually wore my costume after we finished the show to just show that we could have switched off. We had the same body type. You say, I'm losing my words here. You read out a letter from someone who was involved in like one of the original productions, and
Correct.
you always you contact them, and you have them really be able to connect to the cast. And this time around, you actually have Chaim Tupel come to the show. How did that make you feel? Because you always really put yourself out there.
Well,
It's not easy.
I'll tell you how the Chaim Tupel story happened. Uh, we had a lot of new actors in this particular production, but the runaway star was a girl by the name of Racheli Constantine. She played the role of Huddle.
She
She was our
was, yeah.
singer in the play.
Yeah.
It turned out that Racheli's father is a rabbi of the Tel Aviv International Synagogue. Chaim Tupel is the president of the Tel Aviv International Synagogue. And she mentioned in passing, would you like Chaim Tupel to come to this show? And I thought this was a big joke. But it wasn't a big joke. And I kept it quiet from the cast for a while because I didn't want to raise expectations. But it turned out that the rabbi worked out that Chaim Tupel would come. And a couple of days before showtime, I dropped the bomb on the cast. You'd think I was telling them that some huge rock star was showing up here. There was just crazy, crazy reaction. And sure enough, he came to the last day's show. He came about 3/4 of an hour before showtime. He was charming and low-keyed and personable. He came up to the makeup room. He spoke to everybody. Everybody got photographed. He was schmoozing. And then he came down. We gave him a good seat. We introduced him during intermission. It was before the play started. During intermission, I spoke to him, and he had unbelievable things to say about Joey Silverman's performance. And I asked him, he asked me, what does Joey Silverman do for a living? I said, he's a dentist. He said, tell him to get out of that job. He has a future here.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm sure Joey took that really well. He actually left like pretty much right after the show ended.
Yeah. Joey Silverman has been after me to do Fiddler on the Roof also for this entire summer. It's a good thing Corona showed up.
And his son was here also.
Learning.
While you guys were doing rehearsals, I was actually seeing him every Friday at the football field because his son had a team. And I had no idea who he was. He had no idea who I was. And then we finally clicked at the end.
This Joey guy, like I said, he really realized a 30-year-old dream. And he had the ability to bring his whole family to see this. It was a real spectacle. I must tell you something.
Yes.
It was something I never saw. It'll never happen again.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do Cinderella. No. I can't be the prince that old. So Rafal Sarfati says hello.
A great actor and a terrific guy.
And Doobie, thank you for joining us. Go Michael.
Hey.
Shlomit wanted to know, and I think we talked about getting into this. What was your path to become the director at Hillel? Is it artistic director? What do you?
It's called director and producer.
The director and producer. Okay, director and producer at Hillel. How did you start in musical theater? What was your path? If you would like to share that.
I started doing theater in camp back hundreds of years ago when I was 19. I'm not 9 now. We won't continue with that part of the subject. And I worked in a camp called Masad, which is an all Hebrew-speaking camp. And I got lucky to work with a guy who turned out to eventually be the artistic director of Habima. His name was Hanan Sneer. And I became his assistant, not knowing that he had any connection to Habima at all, for that matter. He was in the camp. And he basically started me because I really was a piano player. I used to do weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. And then I got hooked. And then when we made Aliyah in 1985, and I met Joey Silverman in camp. And when I came in 1985 and I was looking around for a job, Joey Silverman introduced me to Hillel. That's why the whole thing with Joey Silverman is so exciting, because he was not only the first fiddler, the first tevye, he was also basically the founder of the theater program. And Hillel wanted to indulge American kids, the entire overseas program, into Hillel in every way possible. And this was a great way to start, by offering a theater program. You have to know, though, that in the beginning, the Hillel program was an all-American one-year overseas gap event. When the first Intifada came, it scared off a lot of Americans, a lot of the kids. They went home. We had a recast. I can't remember now which play now. We had a recast. And honestly, even now, it's 35 years later, the American program hasn't really bounced back in the volume of kids that they had in those days. And the theater at Hillel has changed radically in the sense that people like you and Dina, most of you, a matter of fact, almost all of you actually live here, and very few of you are gap students. And that's how the theater's been going on for quite a number of years now.
Wow. So from camp to come here, and you that was the first job you landed when you came here? You just
It was the first, I started teaching music at the American International School, which was the coolest school I ever saw. It was like being in summer camp all year long. And while that was going on, I picked up this thing at Hillel. Look, the theater thing has been my passion since I could possibly remember. It's not the way I make a living, because I have another passion called Holocaust education, but it's something that I think about all the time. I tell my wife always that for something that starts at 6 o'clock at night, I come home at 11 o'clock at night wide awake.
so you have the Holocaust passion, the Holocaust education passion, and I know you're always busy during that time of year. You're going to Poland. Um, so why there's a lot of, I mean, I've been in a few shows, and I did actually this year CBDB Productions, we did a reading of Ira Fuchs's Vilna on Zoom. We had over 1,300 views or so. Why have you not and J-Town, like Rafi Pash, he started the whole thing at J-Town Playhouse with a performance for Yom HaShoah. So why have you never meshed those? Have you ever meshed those two or tried to?
We did a bunch of years ago. We did a production of The Diary of Anne Frank. We also did a complicated production of John Hersey's The Wall, not Pink Floyd, the book of The Wall, which is again another Holocaust piece. But again, it goes back to the fact that Hillel really wants a big brassy musical, and felt that the Holocaust pieces, while they're great drama, they were only going to deal with a certain limited crowd over a certain limited time, and that was the decision: go with the musical.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it should know that in Poland, in many of the programs I run, we do target evenings whereby we stage a scene from a Holocaust piece and then have a discussion among the group as to whether they've seen. So it does make its way into the Holocaust education program in real life, actually in Poland.
Right. And it's hard to kind of bring the two together. Also, the different passions. Sometimes you have your vocation and you have a vocation, and you need to be able to make both of them.
Look, I hardly ever schedule trips to Poland in the month of November, December, because I can't afford to be away from the stage. And so far it's worked out, because even on the years that I used to have two shows, it was because I didn't have anything planned in Poland at the time. And when I knew that I had a whole bunch of programs in Poland, well, that's pretty much boxed out the theater program for the spring.
Right. Right. And you, but it wasn't because there wasn't enough interest. It just was because
on the contrary. One of the things that we're talking about on Thursday at the Hillel meeting is to go back to a two-show event in the event that we have a problem with sales, and that we can't really, turn in a gigantic population, than to spread the wealth over two different products over the same season. Hillel is interested in a two-show event for this year for their reasons. And like I said, since it's not likely I'm going to be in Poland at this time next year, because it doesn't look that way at the moment.
Right.
So I'm kind of okay with doing one classic musical and one comedy.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to be both musicals. I mean, that's that's the way of the world these days. I'm personally really into plays. I think that they're really, really great to do, but the audience wants musicals. I mean, there was this poll that Ken Davenport did for Broadway investors, and basically 80% said they would invest in musicals.
You know why?
Like 20%.
You know why, CB? Because musicals aren't about reality, and people come to a theater evening because they want to get away from fill in the blanks, whatever it is, especially nowadays. When the theater comes back, I'm sure a selling point will be that enough Corona, we want to be entertained. At least I'm hoping that's what happens.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, that's what I've been writing about that, and I really hope that that's what's going to be. That we are the people that will create a brightness in people's lives. We're going to have those shows that are going to be able to give those people the chance. How they're going to sit in the theater and all that, like we were talking about before with Miri Rega talking about how the guidelines. How the audience is going to sit in the shows, I don't know, but the fact that it'll be really helpful for them and really amazing for them to go see theater.
I think that in many cases, whether it's me or you or Star Chaser or any of these other places, I think opening night, I'm just making a prediction, opening night will be highly interesting to see, because people will wonder how this is going to happen exactly when we can only, by law, fill half a theater. And if the show works and people have a great time, then it'll be a lot easier, because people will say, okay, so I understand there are rules, but I don't care. I want to go anyway.
And it might be that we might need to lengthen. Does that work with? How does that work with the rights? With discussing with the people with the rights, that if you need to now have half a theater, you have to lengthen.
Well, generally,
the
when you
time.
fill out a format for rights, they ask you a number of questions. One of them is an anticipated amount of population and the number of shows you're going to do. Now, they don't hold you to that. They only hold you to that at the end, when you have to report what your sales were. But I can say we're doing 15 shows and we only anticipate having 100 people in each show. That doesn't bother them. They equate the final tally of what we owe them based on actually what the sales were.
You just have to fill out the questionnaire, and then afterwards it gets recalculated based on.
Oh, you have to give them a strong. I mean, they're going to give you an estimate of what the outlay of money is based on what you tell them, and we're not going to play with them, especially since we're using these companies. We're all using the same rights companies over and over and over again. They have a track record. They know that the Hillel Theater has so many and so many seats, and in most cases it fills in X amount of people. It's not as if all of a sudden we're reinventing the wheel. But if I say that instead of 1,800 people coming to a week's worth of shows, we don't anticipate having more than 900 people, they'll all understand why that is happening.
Right. I just want to say welcome Daniel Lewin. He says hi, and Brian Friedland actually joined us. He said he's interested in doing Queen, so we will rock you. Eleanor Kaufman, thanks for joining us. Gabby Shine.
All the people that you're talking to could see us live.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have worn a tie.
And Daniel Lewin, this is probably a joke, but he's asking when Sweeney Todd is going to be put on. I have a question. What were you working with? Gabby says it was 27 years ago that or over 30 years ago that Beit Hillel started. What were you working with then? Now you renovated, you have a really nice backstage, you have a beautiful stage, you have 200 plus seats, right?
204.
204
to be exact.
204 to be exact. Not including all the different plastic chairs that you put in.
Yeah,
right?
not including the plastic chairs. Right.
What were you dealing with when you first started? What was it like to first start?
I can tell you exactly. The room that you're familiar with the red chairs, didn't have red chairs. It was a lecture hall with long tables connected to the floor with orange plastic chairs that were nailed to the floor, swivel chairs. The stage was more or less the same size, but it was an old wooden stage. We had no backstage per se. We had something that looked like a hallway that we froze to death in most of the time. As a matter of fact, I'm not mistaken. No, you were already here for the new backstage, correct? I don't remember now.
Yeah, and, I actually, the Cinderella, we had the new backstage.
Anyway, and the first show we did, which was Fiddler, I played the accordion. I was the accompaniment, and I played the accordion because we didn't have any other choice. We had a whole 4 lights up in the air, and we didn't have enough electricity to do anything more complicated than that. And for years, you may be aware of this, for years, every year, once, sooner or later, dress rehearsal, during a show, sooner or later, we would lose all the power. And then Hillel raised money to do a massive renovation of the building. I think I told you once, we have holy red chairs because there was a theater in Meir Sharim in Geula called the Edison that had red theater chairs. And then as the neighborhood became more and more Haredi, they closed the theater and we bought the chairs. So we say that they're from chairs, so to speak. And Then we renovated the theater, and then of course, you know that we have this the most amazing lighting and sound person created,
God.
named Lightush. We call him God,
Yeah.
who basically was responsible for all the electricity that's in the room. If we took
Wow.
down the acoustical walls that are now there, we probably have
Mhm.
enough wire to run the whole city based on what's hiding behind those walls.
Wow.
The renovation was huge, and now we have a theater that operates.
Well, so, but my question is, when you were working with not what you have now, was it was it the same? Were you would you can people work in a space that's like a lecture hall with a wooden stage and nothing and like make theater? Is that
Look, the theater itself, I can tell you, the theater venue is going to have a lot to do with what kind of theater you pick. For instance, um, ACI, which until they closed, did a string of shows year after year after year, had to think through how you do a show in a limited space with a limited amount of chairs and no backstage per se. And of course, it has an effect on what you could do on the stage per se. I've seen many AACI shows where cast has to walk down the island, back up the island. They have to work the room and the staging differently. The Hill thing gave us huge opportunities. We still have a huge restriction in the sense that if you know the Hill Theater,
yeah?
we can't we can't uh, we can't do much with scenery. We have to construct a piece of furniture on stage, put it on wheels.
Which Doobie does an amazing job with,
Oh,
and
amazing.
Laitush,
Yeah, but
he
Doobie, who's been doing our sets for years now, he knows that he has to put up a piece of construction. He has to work two sides of a piece of construction. The tech people know that they have to deal with wheels and pieces that have to be moved in the dark.
and
And
yet
we don't have,
actors.
we have a great, yeah, right. While we have a great backstage, we don't have wings to get that stuff off stage. It's a restriction. You learn to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. Getting through those doors, the entrances and exits sometimes is a little
Right.
bit
You know that. Look, you've
crazy.
been to shows there. You know that.
Yeah,
You can get it. You have to build it on stage, and then it never gets off stage.
works and it's beautiful and really such amazing works of art and theater on that stage at Beit Hillel. And I really do hope that it continues this coming year.
And I hope that you and your talented wife, and boy, she is a talented wife, come back. I mean, you can bring the baby on occasion, I guess.
So the baby's gonna have to be in all the shows.
Okay, then we have to find a show for the baby.
Well, so I just want to thank you again, Michael, for joining me here. I'm going to now, everybody, thank you for joining. I'm going to just list off, yeah, I'm just going to list off who's joining us. We have tomorrow, we have David Boccaccio Honor tomorrow evening, same time, and Gabby Shine will be joining us on Thursday. Next
Gabby
week,
Shine is going to be hilarious.
she's going to be great. I'm looking forward. Next week, and I mean that. I hope that wasn't like so like I'm looking forward. No, I really do. I'm looking forward. Next week we have a bunch of other people. David Gelman. If I'm just thinking out of the top of my head, Jen Fleischer and Eliza Schaffman-Land are joining us from J-Town actually next Thursday. We have Rachel Dean is the rehearsal pianist for Hamilton Rouge, who will be joining us as well Sunday evening. And I'm probably missing somebody else. And then Next to Normal reunion in 2 Sundays. We've got a bunch of more guests coming up. Basically, that's all I got to say. And
I think this is a great thing you're doing, CB.
Thank you. It's great to connect everybody with everybody and to really reach out and hear personal stories about you, Michael, and others coming on here and talking about where they got into theater from. We're all in this together. We're all hopefully can stay safe and still be creative, and hopefully we open up in the right way, and it's done in a beautiful way, and we'll see each other on the live stage soon.
And don't forget to get your Beit Hillel mask.
Oh, you're good. That's awesome. Is Dina making them, or you have?
Nah, you see, I knew Dina would get into this.
All right, so we're gonna end here. Thank you everybody again for watching. And
All
we
the
will
best to you guys and stay safe.
we'll see you again tomorrow evening.
Be well.